So when I realized that I wanted us to have a conversation about how it is that we maintain a vision for a better world while also living in the realities of this one, I determined that I should get a subject matter expert to come.
Oh my God.
To come and speak with us about this. And as I thought, I'm like, who is a person who I feel like is not a Pollyanna, right? Doesn't run around with rose-colored glasses, right? Is clear about the state of the world, and also approaches that kind of work with like relentless optimism and hope and joy and laughter, and that Ligia is one of those people. And so before we get into the questions that we have mutually agreed upon, Ligia, why don't you just tell folks a little bit about your, right, how long have you been here at the fellowship, and if you feel like, is there anything they need to know about you before we get talking?
Good morning, everybody. I came to Wisconsin in '93 and worked for Kimberly-Clark 25 years. And my wife joined me in '99, and she introduced me to the fellowship. At that time, I very much needed much more than the Catholic Church was offering. And the fellowship, I thought, was like utopia, religious utopia, where in a single place, everybody with different beliefs, whether we're pagan, Buddhist. In fact, the teaching of Hinduism at the time was one of the interesting things that, so I said, this is my new home. And here is also where we got married. And I almost wasn't going to tell this vignette, but when same-sex marriage was possible, which here in Wisconsin, which I didn't know when it would be, Miriam and I went to the Outagamie County Clerk office, and she refused to give licenses at the time. Well, within less than 15 minutes somehow, all of this UUs, gay, straight, every kind of walk of life of people with flowers was surrounding the few people that were there trying to get a marriage license. And I said, oh my God, how kind. I did not know that UU's way of protesting was with flowers. And it was Margaret gave me a bouquet of flowers, and Miriam and I ended up in the first page of the Post-Crescent at the time. And that was just the journey of really, this place had taught me how to really engage, how to be optimistic, a source of energy and positive energy, and that we walk the talk. This is not about just talking, but doing.
Though we do like to talk.
We do.
Though we do, yeah. So, Ligia, what was a foundational experience in your life that shaped your ability to hold that vision for a different world or a better world? Would you talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think sometimes you have to go down in the dumps before you find your internal energy. And I mentioned to Hannah that this is kind of strange to say, fortunate that I had a major depression on my second year of college. It was because of a very big transition from being in school with classmates for several years together to college and not knowing anybody. Well, I learned through that experience with the help of a psychiatrist that worked with my mom that I just couldn't go in and out of places and not spend time getting to know the people, and that's what I was doing in university there. I would go in, take my classes, go home and study, and never get to meet my classmates. And so she said, you must do this. And further, you just need to stay there and make friends, as you know, because that will give you a sense of belonging. You need a sense of belonging. And further, there's too much negativity in this world, and you need to separate yourself from negative people and control negative news. And I've used this through all my life. And every time there was a major transition, another depression happened, but to a much lesser degree when I came from New Jersey to work for KC here. And again, I found kind people that noticed that I needed help, and at work, you know, people started inviting me to places and so on and so forth. But the key foundational thing here is that you can't just wait for the system to help you, but you have to get involved. And even though I was quite shy, I have learned to be an extrovert and use my Hispanic energy to get to know people, to really get involved and meet. Miriam is an incredible, my wife, is an incredible person that will interview a lot of people in a minute. She knows, are they married? How many children do they have? Where are they in college? And so forth. So I've learned, I have a good coach in my wife as well, of how to make connections. And this foundational, this foundational tools in the toolbox, and very much like Willow said, you have to feed your soul and do self-care as well. And one of the self-care, sometimes you have to walk away from people that are all about negativity. And I have a couple of friends that are that way, and I have to control my exposure to those friends. But I think the thing in the fellowship that has been most impactful right now is the immigration justice work, because that also made me exercise things I didn't have to exercise before, like being humble and suspending assumptions and belief and letting them tell me what their needs were, and realizing that, giving personally as opposed to giving money is hugely different and much, much enriching. That experience of just getting to know them personally, advocating, interpreting for them, have been life-changing to me. And now I kind of do that with strangers, even in the supermarket sometimes.
We've turned you into a Wisconsinite. That's what we've done. So, regrettably, we've gotten a Midwestern influence on you.
Yes. Very different than the East Coast. In the East Coast, they don't go, hey, I like your dress, or something, or you look like twins, which they tell Miriam and I when we walk here. Really? I mean, we've gotten this many times.
It's like the oldest like lesbian feedback in the book. Like, are you sisters? Like, no. Roommates? No. So you talked a lot about that, like how foundational that experience of learning to belong was in helping you sort of maintain your hope, maintain your sense of vision, and connected the thread where some of the sort of the work that you've done here at the fellowship with our immigration justice ministry team is also about belonging. Mm-hmm. And so I'd just love for you to talk a little bit more about why does belonging matter? Like, why does that sense of belonging matter so much in our kind of work to build a better world?
Well, it's tremendously important if you think of the feeling you feel when you're at home with your family. If you move and you feel safe with your family and your circle of friends, when you move from one location to another, even from one job to another, it's like you're jumping into a new lake, right? And you don't know exactly how to swim, and et cetera. So it's belonging is creating that sense of well-being and safe home, because you know the people you are working with, because you have social connections. Those social connections are the roots that feed your spirit. Just the other day, Miriam and I were kind of saying how important it was that in one day we were with the League of Women Voters in one meeting, then we went at the PAC, then we went to another musical event, and in every place we were, we knew somebody that came over and chatted with us. And that makes this the reason why we stay in this community. This is our home base. Even though people say, you're from Puerto Rico and you're in Wisconsin freezing. Because freezing is not that important to me. It's a sense, I like it now, just. I like this change of seasons, but I like more the impact that now we are able to make because of all the social connections we've made, not only friendships, but with the organizations that we've worked with. And I am able to make more impact here than anywhere else that I know of. That is why developing that sense of belonging is critically important. In the Japanese tradition, they call this ikigai, or in movies they call it finding your mojo. I found my mojo here, really.
Yeah, that's so, I really appreciate that connectedness is part of our ability to do change work, because I think that sometimes we, especially in a in a religious or spiritual community, we kind of set up dividers between like our justice programming and our other kinds of programming, like the things that do some of that more internal social connection. And what I really appreciate about your reflecting on belonging is the ways that it connects that those are all interconnected, right? The part where we want to know each other and be known in turn is part of how we do work for justice, for equity, for a better world, beyond our four walls. So my last question for you is one that I think is one that I wish we asked ourselves and each other more often, which is just what are your dreams for our world? When you think about, here is what I see, this is what I dream for this world that we live in. What are your dreams for our world, Ligia?
That was one of the toughest questions he had.
This is like a hardball interview here, Ligia. Get ready.
Fortunately, I had some thoughts of my own, and then I'll share some thoughts of one of our organizations that have been working precisely on that. And I'm hopeful that for our community to find ways to integrate the voices and needs of the people who are struggling and suffering from discrimination. In so many ways. Last night, Miriam and I went to a fundraiser for the Carol Ann Domestic Abuse Foundation in Oshkosh, and there was a 16-year-old giving her testimony. And it just impressed upon me that in that event, which actually I was sitting with my Kimberly Clark ex professional friends, that how important networking is we cannot do it alone. This young girl could not do it alone. Fortunately, she found a friend that took her to the domestic abuse center. And sometimes it just takes that one person. In her case, after 3 years of isolation by her abuser. So the networking, I was super impressed that Oshkosh Convention Center had more than 300 people that were giving lots of money to this organization too, which I said, there's a lot of goodness in our community, and at the local level, there's so much you can do, and it just felt, we all felt an elevated, everybody was giving, it's contagious. So that's one of my wishes is having people a community that's inclusive, kinder, more equitable, and more welcoming to all humans, no matter what their walk of life is. But we have also an organization, in case you don't know it, called Imagine Fox Cities. And in their website, they say is one of our local organizations working to create a place where more people can thrive and feel like they belong. We are all interconnected. Together, we have the power to end inequity. So that's their vision. And they further said, they had this page that belonging and civic muscle is at the core of being able to provide the vital conditions for health and well-being. So we are in this belonging, and the civic muscle that we're talking about is not just talking, but actually walking the talk. And around the circle, they had what are those vital conditions for well-being, which human housing, basic needs for health and safety, meaningful work and wealth, reliable transportation, lifelong learning, and thriving in the natural world. So there's a lot of inspiration that we can, do by either knowing more about, they actually do a survey every year, I believe, or every 2 years, kind of sensing the pulse of the community, get involved when they do those surveys.
Yeah, thank you. I love that we're the civic muscle, and how can we exercise our civic muscle and strengthen it? Well, thank you, Ligia.
Oh, you're welcome.